Today, we're going to be talking about the Reformation, humanism, and fundamentalism, really mostly about humanism and fundamentalism. And we're going to break down the 4 common worldviews found in the United States today. This is really fun, really interesting content to go through. It is, frankly, a bit of a more college-level content, but you guys are seniors for the most part, and so you're really ready for this stuff. Especially your Williamsburg seniors, so I think you're even more ready for this stuff. But it is going to be fairly deep. We are going to take basically today's class and spread it over today and next Monday. First of all, what is a worldview? You guys tell me. Aaron, go ahead.
The perspective and ideas through which you see and interpret things in the world.
Yeah, the perspective, your lens through which you see the world. Yeah, exactly. Good, good. Often the term worldview is associated with what's called epistemology. An epistemology is basically your system for determining what you know or the truth of things. Okay, so here's the specific definition: the theory of knowledge, especially with regard to its methods, validity, and scope. Epistemology is the investigation of what distinguishes justified belief from opinion. Does that make sense? So it's kind of your system for determining truth or justified beliefs. You know what I mean? What you believe in. It's your system for determining that. Not some kind of random opinion or a thought rolling around in your mind, but your system for saying, this is what I believe, this is the truth, this is what I'm going to follow. Okay? So that's your epistemology, which is that question at the top there is one of your study guide questions. So really what we're talking about today in terms of worldviews, and we're going to go through again 4 worldviews, 4 kind of prominent worldviews found in the United States today. Worldviews are basically an epistemology, or it's your way of seeing the world, and your epistemology is the worldview, is that process through which you determine what truth is. Okay, so next question, what is humanism? It's an outlook or system of thought attaching prime importance to human rather than divine or supernatural matters. Let me read that again. An outlook or system of thought attaching prime importance to human rather than divine or supernatural matters. Humanist beliefs stress the potential value and goodness of human beings, emphasize common human needs, and seek solely rational ways of solving human problems. Okay? So for example, a person who says, oh, there's something bad's happening, I'm going to pray, they're sort of doing the opposite, right? They're trying to call down supernatural powers to solve the problem. Okay? Other people will say there's a problem and they want to go to work and try to solve that problem or get people together to solve that problem. And some people choose to do both, frankly, right? So like, let's not just, divide 2 camps and say they're totally different from each other. But then you do see the difference. Humanists believe you go to work, it's up to humans to kind of solve the problems of the world, okay? So what is fundamentalism? Fundamentalism is a form of religion, especially Islam or Protestant Christianity, that upholds belief in the strict, literal interpretation of Scripture. So whether you believe in the Quran, you believe in the Bible, you believe in like the Book of Mormon, for example, a strict, literal interpretation of Scripture, you tend to be a fundamentalist, okay? And that's fundamentalism. So where does fundamentalism really come from? Well, Christian fundamentalism began in the late 19th and early 20th century among British and American Protestants as a reaction to theological liberalism and cultural modernism. Okay, and I want to emphasize that point. Fundamentalism is new, 19th and early 20th century, right, among British and American Protestants as a reaction to theological liberalism and cultural modernism. Theological liberalism is kind of liberal religionists, okay? And they were kind of looking at the Bible and saying things like, well, it's not perfect. It's not interpreted correctly all the time. The people who wrote it may have been infallible, or not infallible, but fallible, right? Does that make sense? And they don't subscribe to maybe a literal interpretation of the Bible. For example, that the earth took 6 days to create. Does that make sense? So they're very literal in their interpretations. Now, Does that mean every fundamentalist 100% is 100% literal? No, but fundamentalism is characterized by, literal interpretations of their scriptures, and it became about as a reaction to theological liberalism and cultural modernism, which is sort of that shift that we talked about early on in the semester of how many in the United States, and frankly throughout the world, but especially in the United States and Western Europe and so forth, are shifting away from those maybe traditional creation stories, right, or creation myths, to the scientific creation myth, right? That shift, many have been very uncomfortable with that shift, and so they've reacted to it by sort of circling the wagons and drawing very clear, very strict boundaries of we're right, they're wrong, this is what's correct, this is what's not correct, and kind of rejecting any other thinking. Okay, so fundamentalism again is fairly new, and is very much a reaction to kind of the liberalism, the rise of a shift in our culture, and it's these people sort of kind of saying, no, we're going to circle the wagons, and this is what we believe, and that's what they believe, and we're not going to mix it, and we're not going to kind of allow for any interpretations. We're going to draw strict lines. So now let's get into worldviews. One of the mistakes, though, that people make is they do this. They go, okay, there's humanists, and then there's fundamentalists. Or there's religion people and non-religion. Or there's Republicans and there's Democrats. And we kind of create these splits of two. And we especially do that in the United States because of our two-party system and so forth. We kind of are trained to think that way, conservative versus liberal and so forth. But the reality is there's a lot more thinking than that. And I want to show you the 4 most powerful worldviews in the United States. They aren't the only ones, but they definitely are the most common and most powerful worldviews in the United States that you'll find. And you'll see how all 4 of them are very different from each other.